Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is super exciting to be here. We are starting something very new. Um, it's one of those things that, sometimes God will put something in your heart and you go, I don't know. And then some confirmations come along and then you still go, I don't know. And you try to fight it, but it just keeps coming back. And a few months ago, well, for years I've kind of wanted to do kind of a sermonette type thing, and um, it came to a point where I really was like burdened with it and going, okay, I think this is something I want to do. And then out of nowhere, my wife sends me a video, and it's this video of these guys talking and saying, not all pastors anymore are pastoring in the traditional way. They're doing this sort of thing. They're talking online. And I thought, wow, that's really heavy for right now. Um, in order to do this, I made tons of excuses, come up with reasons why I didn't want to do it, why I shouldn't do it. And part of that was I don't want to be just another guy doing videos on YouTube, on Rumble, on whatever, and saying the same stuff over and over again. My goal with this would be to talk about things in a way that not that's revolutionary, not that's going to change your world necessarily, but that will help you understand maybe what some of the other guys have said. Over the years, I've sat under many pastors and many teachers around the world, and a lot of these people will teach at a level that the average guy is like, what are you talking about? And so part of what I want to do is get into things in a way that is going to be uh, more common knowledge, but still getting into deeper things, but on a level that we can all understand. Because as much as I like to use big words and I understand them, I find it very difficult to sit in a sermon where somebody's using huge words and things like that. So I am trying to do this in a way that's going to be good. And I had some things when I was sitting in church and this was coming to mind about doing this, and I said, okay, God, here's the deal. I don't understand why I would do it. There's other people out there who are probably much better at it. The next thing was that God, why? Why would, you know, why me type questioning? Which kind of came back as a, you don't get to ask that question. I know why, is kind of what God was saying. Like, don't worry about that. One of the things that I did want to do with this, and this is where we'll need your help, is that my goal in doing this will not be to grow a YouTube channel, to grow a Rumble channel, to grow a whatever channel. Um, I told God from the beginning, I have no desire to market this. I do not want to be doing marketing and pushing it and really doing all that kind of stuff. Now, that doesn't mean I won't share some videos once in a while on my Facebook page, but my goal is not to overly push, oh, look, I have my own channel and this kind of thing. I have asked God that what He would do is that any growth that would come out of this will come on a supernatural level, that He would do things to grow this channel in a way that I wouldn't understand, and that way, any growth that happens, anything that I can't take credit for it, any of that would come from, being able to say, I didn't do any of the work on that level. God did all of that. And, I my background's in marketing, so to say I don't want to handle that part is very difficult. And saying, God, because I could easily go out and pay for the marketing and pay for the ad revenue and all that kind of stuff that would boost us up, and I just don't want to do it. And so I said, God, I will do this, but one, um, I need to understand why. Two, I don't want to push it. I want the growth to be supernatural. And three, the biggest thing for me is that we have our other ministry, our main ministry, which is where we go out and document the testimonies of Christian Native Americans and other tribal people around the world. And my goal through this is that we can bring attention to that and help support that ministry more. Um, One of the videos that I know we're going to get into at some point is financial support for ministries, and not on the level that you think. It'll be a very different way of looking at it. But the goal then would be that people like you will go, okay, now we get it. And that through this channel, we can bring more attention to the ministry that we're doing over there. And that you can go over there and check out what we're doing, which this is a good point for a plug. If you want to go over and search for Forthright Films, and we have some different channels over there, but our main one is our Stories of Hope, and that's where all these testimonies are there. And so, I don't know what'll happen down the road. Maybe at some point we'll have guests. We can do, the screenshot guest and have a screen and screen type thing and do that kind of stuff, or somebody's head would be, right about here and talking and all that kind of stuff. But my goal for this is to do something that's going to help benefit you and be pleasing to God, and that would help, be an evangelistic tool to some extent. We're going to deal with topics that are not the topics that most people would want to deal with. And my goal is kind of to run this more like, kind of like a newscast commentary, those types of things, and really get into it on that level where people can go, okay, this is kind of neat. This is something a little bit different than what we're used to. It's not a guy just preaching at us. It's more of a talk type setup. And I really hope that this will be a blessing to you. So this is just our quick little, our pilot style video, informative of what we're doing. And then we will get into some more videos where you'll be able to see exactly what God is speaking to me. I've done I think it says I've done like 30 videos already. Some of these will become more in depth rather than like a 5-10 minute sermonette type thing where we can actually dive into some of these topics and get into it more, where this might be, 30 minutes to an hour or somewhere in there. It depends on how much of a missionary I'm feeling that week and what country I'm in my mind, because when we go to Africa and things like that, it changes. And I guess, that's a good spot to kind of break into what is my background, because maybe you don't know who I am. Maybe this is your first time watching and things like that. I have been a Christian almost my entire life. I was in a Christian home growing up, went through some things throughout my childhood and into my young adult life that were, very, I don't want to say traumatic, but yeah, pretty close. And, throughout all of that, I think the only reason why I was able to keep my head above water was because God was there and had a calling on my life. And right out of high school, I began working for Youth for Christ International. And I worked for a local chapter, and then I went to South Africa. I traveled for a few months with them throughout the Midwest, based out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then we traveled all over with this dance and drama team. I came back, went back to work for Youth for Christ here in the area. And then I got called to go back again, this time to South Africa. And I spent some time over there. I think it was like 3 or 4 months over there. Then we came and I traveled throughout the Northeast for about 2 years, doing the same thing. And our main topic was speaking on racial reconciliation and cultural diversity and things like that. These are topics that are very important to me. And I'm sure we're going to dive into that in at least one video, because it's something that's very close to my heart and something that I think we're missing the ball on very, very much so in our modern culture. I came back from that, ended up becoming a pastor for a short time. I was a youth pastor for a couple of years, coming out of Youth for Christ, and then I became a pastor, went to Bible school, and have done just all sorts of missions work. Well, at some point we broke into doing marketing for ministries, which helped me, really get to see how other churches were doing things, and I enjoyed it completely. Then a few years ago, I think it was about 4 years ago now, I had a guy come to a church, and what had happened was the year before, or a few months before that, I had gone to India. And while I was in India, I was there with a friend of mine, and we went out and we're doing these sermons way out in the middle of nowhere. And I was with this group called the Sora people, and we had an awesome time with these people, incredible people. And I started looking around. I said, man, there's something different. And I looked to the guy that was with us and I said, can you explain something to me? I said, how long have these people had, running water? Have they been part of the modern world? And like I said, this is about 5 years ago. And he said, oh, they've only had this about 25 years. So within 25 years prior to that, they didn't know what electricity was. They didn't know what running water was. They didn't know what indoor plumbing was. And so we would go to these little rural villages, and they might have one lamp or light on at night, and then that's how they would hold their services and things like that. And what really stood out to me was when I had gone online and I had tried to do my research on the people and find out some things. And I started doing the research, and what I realized was that I was learning a lot about their cultic style beliefs and their traditional beliefs and things like that. And oh, this village would go to that village and kidnap spouses for their young men. And man, that's not what I'm seeing. And so I said, God, what's going on here? And I was there to do photography. That's what I was really there for. And all of a sudden, God's going, why not do something different? Why not film? And I said, God, these stories are so cool, but who's going to tell their stories? And God very clearly said, you can. All I had at that point with me was a cell phone, and I had the cell phone, and I had my Canon camera with me. I said, well, I do photography. I don't know. And the next thing I know, I'm videotaping as much as I can instead of photography. I'm videotaping. I thought, wow, this is cool. And I came back and I put together just kind of a test video to see what it would look like based on my really poor video footage. And I got this burden in my heart for tribal people around the world that were Christians, but their story wasn't being told. And so a guy came to our church, and I told him, I said, man, this is kind of what we're doing, da-da-da-da. And at the end of the service, he said, I want to pray for you. I said, okay, cool. So he's praying for me, and he says, God is going to give you a heart for the Native American people. And it was like, whoa. As a kid, I would go dig up my backyard looking for arrowheads. I wanted arrowheads. I wanted pottery. I wanted all of it. As I was digging up my yard, I didn't live anywhere near where you would probably find any of that stuff, but that didn't set me back. I was going to try. I was in Boy Scouts, and I became a member of the Order of the Arrow. I was always, and then on top of that, we would spend all of our summers. We have a Native American museum in our town, and I would go live there. Like, I was through it probably 6-7 times a summer. It was free for kids, and so we'd just go in and just, oh, wow, look at all this stuff. And so that was my childhood. And then for this guy to say, well, God's going to give you a heart for Native American people, I said, he already has. It's in my heart. It's been there my whole life. And so that is where we are at now, that we are doing that kind of work. And so it's very neat to see it. To this point, we have worked with the Lakota. We've worked with the Chippewa or the Ojibwe. We have worked with the Cherokee, and we've worked with numerous other groups along the way. And, we have many to go forward on. And so there's about 120 plus reservations in America. And then there's also regular communities that aren't necessarily a reservation, but they're communities. And then that's just America. That doesn't get into Canada. And then even Alaska has a lot more too. So we have a lot of potential for that ministry. And it's been incredible seeing what we're doing. And I'll do a video on that that's more in depth from my viewpoint of what we're doing. But all in all, it's just been really neat to see what God is doing. And so I hope that these videos will be a blessing to you, and that you'll be able to see things and learn things and hear things, that God will show you stuff that you just never expected. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I look forward to sharing more with you as we go on, and just seeing what God's going to do. That's what's crazy about this, is seeing what God will do through all of this. So thank you again for watching this video, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future. If you would like to know more about our ministry, you can go to forthrightministries.com or forthrightfilms.org, and either of those sites take you to the same place. You can see all of our videos there, and then we're also on YouTube and Rumble. You can see those at Forthright Films. So thank you, and make sure you check those out. and I'll put those links down below. So thank you, be blessed, and have a great day.